the chatters want to say to you or ask you. Yeah. So, I think we're live. You guys checking this out?
Yep, it's up there.
Sweet.
Get the sound off here so that I don't get. We're usually pretty good about monitoring the chat and letting you know if people have questions, and there's usually a couple of good questions. So
yeah, gonna pop out the chat.
We got people in the chat yet?
Yeah, I think so.
Grinwig.
Sweet. If they follow us, I think they get notified when we go live.
So the funny thing, Roger, is one of the hardest parts with Off the Wall is that Wicco spinners are next to impossible to find now.
Not a surprise.
So, and there's, like a single spinner for Mad Planets is hard to find. They're selling for like just a spinner for $300 to $500.
Oh my God.
Gosh.
And so I happened to talk to somebody who was selling an off the wall panel, original, and got the dedicated one, which I never thought I'd find. But it came with the 2 Wicco spinners, and he's like, "Well, would you give me $500?" And I'm like, "Just for the spinners?" Yeah, I mean.
Wow.
But
that's amazing.
So the fun part is we actually after finishing that game, we have a little arcade we call Starcade in Minnesota, and so Off the Wall and Chicken Shift are now out in public play.
That's shockingly amazing.
I'd like to see that.
I'd love to see a photo.
I think I actually can pull one. I can change my background.
Wow.
It's funny because everybody sees that initial screen of Chicken Shift and thinks the whole game is about the eggs coming down. There are a lot of levels, and they get freaking hard.
Wow.
All right. How are you? My cat's trying to climb me like a tree, so I'm gonna put her down again.
Well, there you go.
I should have dragged the warlords in here. That's too bad. Oh well.
Oh yeah, warlords.
Yes.
We got to talk about warlords.
Of course.
Who in the room owns a warlords?
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, he's got 2.
I have an upgrade as well.
Stupid orthopedic surgeon.
And an upright. Wow. Well, that I have a little story I can tell you about warlords.
Well, let's use that as a warm-up story. Why don't you tell us about warlords?
Well, it was kind of a traditional semi-annual event that Atari Engineering would hold back in the day, and they it would be an off-site brainstorming session. So we'd all go off to a hotel or some place that was away from the office, and because I was really one of the very first guys to draw drawings of game screens as an idea, I did the first storyboards for Atari, and nobody ever did that before. So anyway, the guys in the engineering group would come to me and ask me to do a couple of drawings of the storyboard for an idea for a game they had. And it turns out I wound up doing a few of my own ideas. And Warlords was one of those. I remember sketching it out, watching TV in the evening long ago, whenever that was. And I presented it in the brainstorm meeting, and nobody liked it on the spot, but someone came along afterwards and said, "Oh yeah, this would be cool. It's like Breakout, bent around the 4 corners of the screen, and so you're bouncing, the ball against the bricks of the different fortresses of the different players, and that's really what that was all about." And turned out to be a lot of fun, and it was really one of my very first game ideas.
That's very cool.
It's the one game that I have in my basement that when people come over, very few people have played it, because it wasn't everywhere. But it's the one game that once they start playing, they just stay there.
Yeah.
Right.
And they go get friends, and they're like, "Hey,
Yep.
you've got 2 people playing.
Right.
You should come play the third player." And the idea that you can play between 1 and 4 players, that execution, it just makes that game a blast. And it takes 2 seconds to learn it. It takes a while to get good at it.
Yeah.
But even people who are like, I don't really play games, I'm like, just try this one.
Yeah.
And they'll stick around for a while and play. It really is. It's an amazingly simple, fun, challenging game. So it's one of my favorites.
One other thing that I think is really great about it too is it's a significant upgrade from Breakout or Pong or any of its predecessors in that you have a full-fledged animated dragon delivering the fireball at the beginning of the game. And when they made the Atari 2600 version, of course, it had to be more limited. So that didn't exist. But then later on, a homebrew came along when the chip sizes were bigger and you could store more memory and do bank switching and things like that. And they faithfully reproduced not only the dragon, but made like a little animated, like walking knight that goes across the screen, and it's called Medieval Madness. And if you can get the homebrew, it's a fantastic port.
Wow.
We actually approached. I thought with all these barcades, an awesome idea would be kind of like the competitive Pac-Man, the 4-player Pac-Man. We thought a large, faithful reproduction, 25-inch CRT version of Warlords would be a great barcade game.
Yeah,
And
it would be.
I sat down at CES 2 years ago with Atari, talked through the idea with them. They kind of gave me the ho-hum, well, a lot of our rights are owned by a certain company, not saying anybody, but it was one up. And, then all of a sudden the talks with them, which were going well, just abruptly stopped. 6 months after that, One Up released their combination Pong Warlords
Right.
cabinet. And it was funny because I tried to explain to them, these are not going to be competitors. We're talking about a, legitimate arcade, industrial grade arcade cabinet versus a 1/2-inch plywood, take it at home and mess around with it. And but I couldn't. Yeah, it was which was really too bad because I thought a 25-inch version of that for the arcades that are popping up now would have been a blast.
Well, the original name for the game Warlords was obviously not used, but it was called Kings in the Corner.
Oh, cool.
So
Makes
Kings
sense.
in the Corner was the name of that as a concept that was presented, and then it turned into Warlords.
Be
Was
interesting
the corner a K or?
Be interesting if it got shortened to just King's Corner. King's Corner would have been a great name too.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not quite sure where Warlords came from.
Yeah. Because Warlords, they pillage and take over other people's castles. I don't know.
Well, then there's one of the guys in the chat is saying, make a game that looks and sounds. Maybe we should make Kings in the Corner.
There you go.
I don't think anyone used that. So probably can.
Nice.
Actually, there's 2 things I wanted to see happen. I thought Warlords would be a great game for those, those top-down projections where you can kick stuff around and it reacts to your body. Mm-hmm. I thought a large version of Warlords, we had people standing in the corners, would be great for an event.
Oh yeah.
And the other thing I thought would be a lot of fun is if you did a VR version of it, where you could have people actually competing against each other. It would almost be like 4-player competitive discs of Tron at that point, though. I mean, it'd be a weird in a VR environment.
Right, I'd have to run around your castle to deflect the ball with your hand or something, and
well, you'd have to have some type of shield.
Sure.
Actually, you could have a shield and a sword. They have different speeds. I mean, here we go.
There we go. Done.
So I want to just say thanks to the Gleek and Jabaruga and Proc and the Gleek and all the guys that are in the chat right now. Thanks for hanging out with us. I think it's Mark. Is it about the time?
Let me check. Yes.
All right.
Yes, it is.
Let's. Wait a minute. I should have the show notes ready, right?
I just looked at the floor and I said, "Yeah, it's ready." It's time.
And did you see the Gleek posted the link to the YouTube Medieval Mayhem?
Oh, did he? Good.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I wonder if anybody has video of us at Grinker's arcade playing $1 Warlords, where everybody puts down $1 and plays a game of Warlords, and
Oh yeah. I won a copy of a PAL version of King of Kong for submitting a Polaroid photo of me and my friends playing Medieval Mayhem on a DLP television. That's how old that sucker is.
DLP.
It's already a classic game, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know.
No judging.
And what now?
No judging.
No judging. No.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I think now is the time on the Sprockets when we do the show. This is the 16th episode of season 5, right? Is that what we're on?
You're correct. Sweet 16.
Sweet 16? All right, let's hit it.
Live from KOYR Studios in Minneapolis, Minnesota, this is Arcade Radio.
Where I live. Run.
You survived.
Hello, and thanks for listening in from the Arcadosphere. This is season 5, episode Sweet 16 of the Arcade Radio podcast. Today is Thursday, May 27th, 2021, and the time is now approximately 7:29 p.m. Central. I'm your host, Adam Rockerman. I'm joined by my co-host, Mark. Did you rip that off? Shields and Paradise Arcade Shop proprietor and Brad Pitt's secret BFF, Brian Thurston Howell Armitage III, and joining us tonight, he began at Atari with Nolan Bushnell in the 1970s and ended up being the vice president of development at Namco Bandai Games of America in the late 2000s. He's been a party to making many of the most classic games come to be, and we can't wait to talk to him about it. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm round of applause for Mr. Roger Hector.
Golf clap.
Go. And of course, we'll reintroduce you when everyone's forgotten who you are in about 45 minutes or a half hour. So, first of all, what have you been working on, Mark?
So, TikTok has been very successful.
Oh.
I am luring in all of my middle-aged, Gen X kids and retro tech lovers. I have finished restoring the Video Vendor, which is a 1980s VHS rental vending machine.
Is it fully populated now?
Not fully populated. I am still accepting, people donating. We actually have a couple boxes back here to open up, and we'll put that on the TikTok. But I have everything working. You can go up with a membership card, put in money, select a tape, and it'll go grab the VHS tape, stick it in there, and then put it and vend it to you. Essentially.
So, Mark, tell Roger what this thing is about.
Right. So, before Redbox, I don't know where this company, it was in Chicago, Essex Computing of some sort. That's the name of their company, but the thing was called Video Vendor, and this just giant machine kind of looks like an arcade game to one side, except for you're just interacting with a little 9-inch green screen and picking a movie, and insane. So I only seen
the
two.
the other 5/6 of the game are
Right.
basically a tape library from like an IBM mainframe.
It holds 320 VHS tapes. It is 8 feet long.
Wow.
I cannot figure out. I have to get rid of 4 games in my house to put it in here.
And
It's been.
I
And I now know I don't have any walls that are 8 feet long.
it is the coolest thing though. I mean, like you select your video and the arm goes and it picks
And
up the video and it brings it to a little drop box, and then you pick. I mean, it's like it's Redbox before Redbox.
Right, but I mean,
Nice.
old school PCB and just super. It's so weird how arcade had such an influence on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my latest project. I think one of the last few things I have to put new capacitors in the monitor, and somewhere there's a 5-volt AC leak. I have to find that because occasionally I will get shocked.
Oh.
And today I got my probe out and I'm like touching like every metal part, and all of them have 5-volt AC coming off of them. So
Well, 5 volts
Are you
not so bad, but
grounded?
12 volt, man, 12 volt will get you. It'll make your
Have
teeth
you-
rattle.
I have a new plug. I just don't know.
Yeah, but is it actually connected to the grounding straps?
I mean,
don't
I'll check continuity and
Yeah.
double check
Yeah.
that.
yeah.
'Cause we should be surprised at how many machines we get in that it's like, there's either 3 prongs, they're not connected, or like the third prong's ripped out. And then we talk to people like, oh, you don't need that one. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I have some fun things. I just finished up Mousetrap. It's been sitting around waiting to be put together, and I finally got a CPO that works. So it's on there. And all of the powder-coated parts that Brian and I worked on over a year ago are on the machine now. All the wiring is finally done. Fun fact, Mousetrap ripped off the Bally Pac-Man joystick. So
Oh, yeah, I know. It's like a full-on ripoff.
yeah, I mean, you look at the breakout of it, and it's like, did they just steal it right out of the manual?
A
Because
lot of people did.
I mean, Roger, tell us about
That
that.
was standard
Yeah, was that
for
like
a lot of places.
a lot
lot
of
of
things? A
borrowing.
lot of places do that.
Yes.
Oh my gosh! But I was like, so okay. Well, I put my Pac-Man joystick in there, which is also powder coated, and the machine looks beautiful inside and out. New T molding, new LED lighting. I buffed the hell out of that bezel so you can actually see through it now because there's a bunch of scratches and melting of the plastic in the middle. So that was fun. And then I'm working on Fire Truck. I sent off my parts to be zinc gold plated. So I'm going from the ground up. All those old Atari power bricks, everything's going to look brand new when I'm done. So that's what I've been doing. Brian?
Let's see. I had a person bugging me about the scratches in their Mousetrap marquee, so I finished off reproducing the Mousetrap marquee.
Who was
I've got
that?
I don't know.
Who was that?
Actually, it's funny. It was kind of an interesting one because it's really hard to do browns on a printer, and computer screens are terrible for browns.
Yeah.
But got them matched up. Ordered glass, which I
Nice.
haven't told you. So we have the glass coming in for that. So I'll have a nice one for my Mousetrap as well as somebody else's.
Oh, well, that'll be cool.
And then I also finished doing the iRobot. Let's see, I printed, I think, 12
Okay.
marquees to color match.
Very cool.
It was, I mean, getting the reds and the blues to pop the same way they did on the original marquee was next to impossible.
Yeah.
And it just took, I mean, I did all this color matching, matched all these swatches, and finally I'm just sitting in there doing like 1%, 2% changes in ink mixtures. And the end result, I think, was really, really good.
Sweet.
So excited about that. And then aside from that, it wasn't working on games, but I actually got to play my Aztarak, which showed up last 2 weeks ago, the day after I left Minnesota to come back to Colorado, and had to endure pictures of Billy Seven, who's in the chat, playing the game, and the other guys, which was actually good that they tested it, but and then had to wait 2 weeks to go back there and play it. So neat game. That is a joystick that was ripped off from nowhere and should never be ripped off from that game because it is a terrible joystick, which really needs some love, but a neat joystick. It's an optical spinner, 2-direction. It's kind of goofy, but had a blast playing that. So yeah, that's been my last.
Very cool. So, Roger, welcome to the show. What have you been working on?
Well, thank you. No, it's fun. It's fun to be here. I've obviously been around the game business for kind of a long time.
What?
Going way back into the 70s. So it's been a lot of games, but I'm also still doing it, which is kind of creepy. But
that's awesome.
I've got I'm the executive producer of a new game that's going to come out in a couple of months. That has been created and funded by a wonderful nonprofit foundation who wants to encourage young people to learn about entrepreneurism and financial literacy. And
well,
they wanted that encapsulated in a video game. And so they contacted me this a couple of years ago, and I basically put together a team and created a product, essentially a whole new game. It's called Venture Valley, and it's going to come out in a few weeks or a couple of months actually. But it's going to be given away for free. It's for Mac and PC and iOS and Android. So you can play all of those against each other, and it's a multiplayer game that basically everyone gets to start a business, and you get to pick the kind of business you want. Some of them are really silly and simple, like a dog walking business. Others get more and more elaborate. You can make a pizza parlor, or you can build a robot factory. So it gets more and more advanced as you get through it, but it's really all designed just to be fun. It's just fun, but you wind up having to learn a little bit about entrepreneurism and financial literacy just to be able to get through it. And so that's what I've been doing, and it's really been a lot of fun. It's going to be cool, and there will be all these prizes associated with the tournaments, so that for getting a game for free and playing it, you can potentially win a college scholarship or a big
that's
cash prize,
very cool.
all that kind of stuff.
So I got to get my son onto this thing.
Yeah.
Because I will
good.
tell you, after playing Monopoly with him, he has a lot to learn about entrepreneurship and business.
Oh, man. I had a game like this, but it bombed. It was not as good as what you've just described. The beginning of the game, you have to fill out your LLC, and then it was not.
Now this is all about. It's really all about having fun, and it's very competitive. There's like most tournament esports tournament games, they're either versions of sports games, or they're usually like last man standing kind of shoot everyone else on the island kind of games. And in our case, you're just competing against businesses, and you get to learn all kinds of stuff about real business that is in a competitive context. It's really fun.
I might have to actually take a look at that. And so what do you think about moving on to Brian's section? Anybody? Bueller?
Yeah.
Bueller?
I always felt that the true stars at Atari was engineering.
Oh, you're an inventor.
Yes, I am.
What have you invented?
A lot of things.
Like?
Like a lot of things. Like things that you've heard of.
Like?
Well, things that you will have heard of, okay? Patents are patented.
Arcade Gadgets with Brian McLeod.
Welcome to the gadget section. We're going to talk about two things today. Although I am going to mention, Adam, in the chat, they're saying that there is a little disconnect between the video and the audio.
Yeah, there's not much I can do about that right now. We'd have to reboot everything, so.
Just Give me a heads up.
Just pretend that we're all talking in sync.
I'll move my mouth and then I'll make noises later.
Okay.
It's like I'm up
I totally understand what you're.
Yeah. So, two kind of cool projects that are going on. Well, one of them is one project with another project that was kind of announced. We talked about the Omega Race Teensy last time that I was here. This is a Teensy board that is on a small Teensy, which is like a $12 board based on I think that's a 32U4, but it might be actually a different chip at this point on the Teensy. And Jason Kopp and one of the guys he's working with was able to get that working for Omega Race. Well, they also have it working for Discs of Tron now.
Nice.
So they've got a Teensy board directly emulating Discs of Tron. They're matching clock rates. They're trying to do this right. And one of the things talked about was a possible MCR multi, which is kind of exciting, kind of interesting. The very interesting thing will be is if they can deal with some of the rotation issues, if they're able to actually rotate, which is much harder with the raster games and the vector games, the imaging so that you can do Tron or Discs of Tron on the same machine. Kind of a neat little offshoot out there.
Yeah.
And then so the Teensy is an interesting concept for doing this. One of the things I think Jason is doing well with these is that he's going to the extent of actually testing the rate and the way the game plays to make sure that this is an exact emulation. So it's not an FPGA, but it's also not MAME. It's its own unique emulation system. It's pretty cool.
So, Roger, have you dealt with MAME or any of those things? I mean, like, what do you are you always developing things on the original hardware?
Yeah, that's traditionally been kind of what I've been doing. So, PlayStation and Nintendo and
sure,
Sony and all of that good stuff. Today, it's as I say, it's cross-platform, which is its own challenge.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of it like that. I mean, this is essentially, it is a port of a game to a different operating system. I mean, that's basically what they're doing. And then how closely can they get that game to play? Because one of the big things people have been doing lately is emulating these things on FPGA chips, and they're able to get, I think the one of the best original examples was actually the Williams boards, which you could get Robotron playing full on, advanced levels of Robotron with virtually zero difference detectable between the original and the FPGA version. And then one of the ones that really brought that to light was the Nibbler with Crafty Mech, where they had, the world record holder for Nibbler playing and saying he couldn't tell the difference between a real board and that. So that's what the FPGA has gotten a notoriety. This whole idea with using a Teensy is interesting because that whole system is so inexpensive that it can be done, at about a third the cost of what an FPGA chip is. So it's a neat feature. The other thing I was going to bring up was the exact opposite of getting everything down to all the old style, getting all the old stuff onto a new system. We actually just finished off the reproduction lunar lander boards. So there will be exact one-to-one duplicates. We're doing a few modifications that were suggested by some people in the forums, adding in easy watchdog disabling, as well as the disabling of the vector circuitry so you can troubleshoot the board. But why should you need to troubleshoot it? It's brand new, so it's going to work perfect every time. These are not going to be assembled. They're going to be blanks, and the whole idea of them is we have to do one round of testing, and then they'll be ready to go. But the idea is that we're going to do these in a black, gold coated traces, and to make a piece of art as well as something, it's basically a functional piece of art. So these would be something fun to just have up in the arcade or use if you need a lunar lander board. So those are the two gadgets for today.
Well, I mean, that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not doing that over here. I'm trying to put, all the screws in the little drawers and stuff. Whatever.
I do cheat a little bit. I have some help on getting those boards going, but it's a neat process. And it's one of the things that we're doing is as we go through these, we're reproducing a lot of these older boards. The goal at the end, and we do sell them as we go, But the goal at the end is once I have a bunch of these documented, it's not just the traces, it's the schematics, the traces, everything. And when we're done with all this and I decide that we're not doing anything with them anymore, we're going to release them. And we'll let anybody have them so that they'll be documented, they'll be out there, and if people need to reproduce the stuff, it'll be there forever.
Awesome. Archive.org, I highly recommend it.
Awesome.
I scanned in all of the video vendor documentation and released it to the world.
For the
other two guys that, there's some guy, one has it in his garage, and then I know for a fact that in the El Dorado Games warehouse, they use their video vendor as a ladder. There's a really high shelf, and they couldn't get to it, but if they stand on the video vendor, boom, they can get to that shelf.
Well, I maybe at some point somebody will approach Jason Kopp and see if he can reproduce the video vendor.
I don't think so.
On a teensy.
Oh, no. Just a small version.
So we're going to try this new segment. Mark, is that what I'm seeing? Is we're going to try and...
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Here we go.
Yeah, there's a problem with the price here. You better send someone over.
Car 54, where are you? It's the Price Police with Dan Reed.
What? Who's Dan Reed?
Dan,
That's like a super old clip. Okay, we'll have to work on that, but still, this is the Price Police. And the idea of this segment of this show is we're all working on arcade projects. And so we thought it would be fun if we live Googled something and talked about maybe whether or not that was going to work out. So Mark, why don't you go first?
Okay, well, am I sharing my screen or am I?
Well, I don't know if you can share it or not.
I can tell you what I did.
All right.
Okay, so I'm working on restoring a Pac-Man Cabaret.
Sure.
Standard. And I bought some stuff from Phoenix Arcade. Is that them? Darren?
Yep.
Anyway, so he had a bezel and I bought it and a bunch of other stuff. And then, the cool thing about him is he will refund, the shipping if you buy a bunch of things and then you package it all together. And so
Sure.
I got like an amazing refund and I was like, oh my gosh, the whole shipping is free. This is great. And I didn't bother to look and see that he actually didn't carry the Cabaret bezel with him. He's like, oh, my bad. I don't have it. So here's that money back.
Well, at least he gave you your money back.
He did, but I did. Now I'm, so then I'm like, all right, fine. So I go to eBay, or Facebook, and I'm starting to look around, and I find like an original, and then I get a good look, and I'm like, is this person on the crack? They are selling this Pac-Man Cabaret glass monitor bezel, $200.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So a repro is $90. But here's the kicker. The shipping is $166.60. Well, it's expedited. Oh,
it's
expedited. You have a question?
I got to give you credit, though. You didn't just call me and tell me that you needed me to do it like someone else.
Well,
I did not say that. I said, here's what I said. I said, is there any chance you might be doing Mousetrap marquees? That's what I said.
Marquees, right.
And
the
he
bezel,
said,
a little bit more.
Yeah, bezels are huge.
Is that too big?
No.
Yeah, it's too big for me. Well, no, even on the Cabaret, it'd be too big.
But speaking of that, my Price Police story is along those same lines.
What?
So I'm doing a search right now. Mousetrap Bezel Arcade on eBay. There are two. One is $300.
No.
Plus $13.70 shipping.
Well, that's reasonable.
Yeah, I mean that's like ridiculous. You can't ship a bezel for $14. I mean, even if it's plexi, what are you going to do? Wrap it in like gift wrapped? Yeah, right.
I don't.
It's gift wrapped. Put a couple $13.70 worth of stamps on it and see if it makes it through the mail. Anyway, $300 benefits charity though. So I mean, even if you're a Mousetrap owner who is in dire need of a bezel, That's like, I mean, what's a mousetrap go for these days if they're not working or complete?
$200.
Yeah, I don't know. 500, 900,
500. Yeah, I don't know.
somewhere in there. I mean, if it works, I mean, the boards are worth quite a bit, but still $300. That's like a third of the cost of the machine.
Right.
Is the bezel tested?
It says, here's the listing. It says vintage 24 by 22 mousetrap XD. Am I sorry, May interrupting you, Brian?
Sorry, I'm still on call.
Yep, good. It's not a Mario beep if they call you. I know that. So monitor glass bezel arcade video game Atari 1981. Still outrageous. And then there was one other one for $129. That's a bargain compared to the $300. But the shipping is $22.90, so it's back up to $150. So I'm sorry. Are they brand new?
Bad.
No. But
That's
150 is like, don't you think that's kind of a lot for a bezel?
It is, but I looked up the guy that was selling me my $366 bezel, and I was like, he must have other high-priced things. He only has 2 Magic the Gathering cards, and they're super cheap.
$10.
I almost want to buy them and then videotape myself like ripping them up.
That reminds me, I was at a friend's house, and his kid, he has 3 sons, and they do Magic the Gathering, which is called MTG, I'm guess for short. Anyway, there was a card sitting on the table, and they have all the cards have these protectors on them now. It's like, who wants to play cards with something that has that's like, I don't know.
It's like keeping the plastic
like,
on your living room furniture.
Kind of like wearing that's what I was going to say, Brian. So anyway, it's kind of like keeping the lampshade cover on your lampshade. But anyway, I'm like, oh, finally a good use for a Magic card. And I took a picture of my drink sitting on top of the Magic card. I got some negative feedback on that one.
Get that off.
Anyway,
MGT, I guess.
That's enough for the price, please. I think that'd be a fun segment every once in a while.
What about
I have a really quick one?
Oh, good. Yeah.
I mean, this is one I actually had to jump in and start getting on top of in the Midwest forums.
Okay.
Pirates of the Caribbean Collector's Edition.
Oh, only $35,000.
$35,000.
You could buy 6 of them. Roger's like, what?
That's what they're going for. One just sold for $25,000. There was one out here last fall.
Are you shitting
buying
me?
It for $12,000. I'm like, that's too much.
I swore on the air. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
so,
it's $35,000. Now he has dropped the price to $30,000 since.
Okay.
That's still terrible. That's terrible.
Does he deliver it for that much, or how's that?
Well, that was kind of the funny thing is no. It's so there was this whole thing like, what did he say? It was kind of funny actually. Maybe open to trades can work with you on direct delivery, but would suggest avoiding STI on this.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. He has his opinions. Let's move on to the next section. Oh.
Back in '82, I used to be able to throw a pigskin a quarter mile.
Back to the cave with Time Runner.
Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational pull?
Welcome to Back to the Cade, the segment of the show where we talk about some stuff that you may not know, and hopefully you learn something. Tonight, we're going to talk about karaoke.
Karaoke?
Yes, the word karaoke has been derived from 2 Japanese words. Kara, which comes from the word karapo, meaning empty or void, and oki, which is the word orchestra or orchestra.
Oh, yeah.
Am I doing the accent right? I can't tell.
I don't know.
So I was trying to find out about the origins of karaoke, and by the way, this is all going to make sense when we get to the next little sub-segment. But I did not realize this. I had not seen this before, but from 1961 to 66, NBC had a karaoke-like series called Sing Along with Mitch. Oh, my God.
I just know what you did for What's in the Juke. I'm so excited.
I love it. I was watching Sing Along with Mitch's all night long when I found out about this.
Sing Along with Mitch has been around for a gajillion. Didn't Mitch allegedly teach Frank Sinatra how to sing.
I could see that happening.
They were like from Hoboken, New Jersey, both of them.
Why isn't there? It is good. So, and then the way they have the choir and everything, it's just great stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Everybody go look for Sing Along with Mitch.
Yeah, and you can buy his records. Like, people throw those in the cheap bins all the time.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
Wow.
I actually have a little clip from Sing Along with Mitch if you want to play that, but I don't know if you're
if I'm prepared to do that.
Share a YouTube link.
Well, I don't know if I don't know if I can share it, but I can play it. There might be is there an ad in front of it?
I hope not. I don't think you can monetize that. But oh wait, I just saw the terms.
Fighting's not that easy.
Oh yeah, there's definitely an ad. Can you believe there's ads?
Grammarly says if you don't know grammar, we'll help you.
Here we go. There's a clip with Sing Along with Mitch.
Hello, won't you join our party? There's lots of room. Our guest of honor hasn't shown up. We were expecting him in from California tonight because in the morning he starts work with us on
how much should I play this? Like 10 seconds?
This big hotel suite for a pre-rehearsal welcome party, but I guess he never got my wire. So we're having a party anyway. Come on and sing.
Little girl,
little girl,
little girl, you're as sweet as can be. Just a glance at you meant love from the start, and oh what a thrill
came into my heart. What a thrill! Oh, that's awesome. You know what's great is I'm gonna go buy some Mitch records. I don't think I literally you can find them anywhere. They're in like they must have sold a gajillion of those albums. Do you remember those, Roger? The Sing Along with Mitch?
Yes.
Yeah.
As soon as you said "Sing Along with Mitch," that's what popped into my head.
You're like, okay, these kids know their stuff. I mean,
right. I mean, obviously they're singing and you're singing, but the words and the way that was laid out, very symbolic of the way karaoke evolved.
Yes.
Just good times. Good times. So tonight in our next segment, we're going to learn which of us is tone deaf. Because this is going to be an a cappella karaoke. What's in the juke?
What's in the juke?
Welcome to the Season 5 edition of What's in the Juke. It's the game within a podcast. Today, we will be playing 80s music audio clips as performed by none other than Mr. Bob Zarzadek.
Oh my God!
Did you know he is a control panel expert and a technician?
That is hilarious.
Yes, if you can guess the song title, you will receive a
half point.
If you recognize the artist and can tell it to us, then you will receive
half point.
Yes, if you guess both, you get
full point.
If you don't know either, please find it out. That is a lot of fighting. Now that the fighting is over, let's begin.
Okay. Here comes your first. I don't know if I can handle this. Here comes your. This doesn't even have any words.
No, there's no words in anything. No.
Here we go.
Hey, boing, 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 boing.
Well, the Gleek has got the title with Axel F. That's great. And
I'm dying.
Harold Faltermeyer, Billy 7. Great job, sir.
Oh my God. This is the best What's in the Juke ever. Okay, here comes your next clip. Oh, jeez.
Yes.
Hey! Wow, 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 wow. Wow, 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 wow. Wow, 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 wow.
I'm
wow, 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 wow.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, that's going to be a tough one.
Then the cat died.
I got his.
They're not all winners. Let me just let you know ahead of time.
How about I do my own rendition?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to know when
my gosh,
love
somebody knows
is. Oh, that's amazing.
20 could somehow figure it out.
And he got both of them.
Did he?
I want you to show me. Oh my gosh. And we picked this episode with Roger listening and participating to torture him with What's in the Juke, Bob style karaoke.
Bob Zarsdek edition.
That's right. I mean, I thought it was going to be a Mitch thing, but no, it turns out it's Bob Zarsdek.
Oh my gosh. Here it comes to your next track.
Hey, bow 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 bow. Bow 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 bow. Bow 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 bow. Bow bow.
I hope we never do this again. This is like the
stopped working. No,
I mean,
Shazam will not work on these.
I'm really like glad we're not getting flagged for copyright, but I'm also very embarrassed, and our guest is having to listen to this.
You know what you signed up for, Roger.
Well, hey, comes with the territory.
The next one's gonna be even worse.
I'm gonna guess that nobody could figure that one out.
Yep.
We're gonna give them another second, and it looks like we got nothing. That was Huey Lewis in the News, The Power of Love.
I like the Mr. Peabody's got like a woman grabbing her head, and like she's like, oh my god. All right, here comes your next track.
Hey, la 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Why isn't he just singing these?
La 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 la. Hey,
hey.
I get that one.
You think so? The Smurfs theme song is the guess. I don't think that's right. Like a Virgin. Grinwing is. Are you slipping him like the answers, man?
I have not. Like a Virgin, Madonna, correct.
Oh my gosh. Who got Madonna?
Grinwing as well.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe that. Okay. Oh. Here comes your next torture.
How bad is this gonna be?
Hey, meow 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 meow. Meow, 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 bow, boom, boom, bow, bow, boom, boom, bow, bow.
Oh God!
Money for nothing.
Oh no! You just gave it away.
Sorry.
Grinwing did get Dire Straits. Gleek gives a
like the Gleek is like, what the blank?
I think
like
Grinwing got both.
I agree with you, the Gleek. I agree.
I'm going to say Grinwing is not tone deaf. That answers our question from earlier.
I think maybe.
I agree with you. How is Grinwing getting these?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, it's totally nuts. I can't understand it myself. Okay. Oh my God. Here comes your. How many are there? There's
11. If you don't want one, you can cut one out.
All right, here we go.
Hey, rah, 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 rah. Rah, 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 yeah. Rah, 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 rah. Rah, 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 rah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like how he ends everyone with, yeah. Pass. Yeah, I've got a pass. Boy, you guys.
I'm afraid that pass is not the artist. Raspberry Beret.
Beret. Yeah.
He got it.
I cannot believe this. How is he doing this? Okay, here comes.
He sings along the same way. See,
is the next one just? Okay, here we go.
Hey, meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow.
Okay, I can get that one.
He is meowing, though, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
so.
meow. I think he's onto something. These. It is shout, Grinwing.
Shout.
I mean, first of all, who's Grinwing again? Who's what's his name on the regular channel? on the old channel.
What?
I need a translation chart for all the names because everybody's
The names.
Anyway,
Is Wing Chris?
so
No,
Chris has still got his name. But
Chris Grimm
Joe
is...
Baruka.
Yeah, Joe Baruka.
But Grinwing, man, Brad Holman. So Brad Holman has gotten pretty much all the points tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something you want to claim as being a good thing.
All right, I'm gonna save. I'm gonna skip the next one. I'm gonna do the last three here. Okay, and I'm gonna save that one for last. Okay, here's the next track.
Hey, do 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 do. Do 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 hey do 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 yeah.
I don't even want to play it again. We built this city. The Gleek got it.
Gleek, good job, Gleek.
Let's give the Gleek 2 points for that one.
4 point. 4 point. Again.
Okay, here comes your next track, and then we have one left.
Hey, wee 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 wee. Wee, yeah!
Yeah!
What?
Oh my gosh, these are hilarious. Okay, we have one left after this. We're not going to take as not correct. Wham is correct. Grinwing. Brad Holman. Got it again.
Right.
Wake me up, Brad Holman. And he got another full point. He's got like all the full points.
He does.
Last
4
one
points.
for 6 points.
Yeah, what's the running score right now?
Grinwing has 6 points. The Gleek has 2.5, thanks to your graciousness. And Billy 7 and Whiskey Flipper are tied in third and fourth place with a half point.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this one's worth 10 points.
Sure.
Right. This one's worth 7.5 points. Okay. All right, here we go.
Hey, do 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 do.
That was a little tough.
Really?
Brad Holman.
Whiskey Flipper.
Oh, Whiskey Flipper.
Whiskey Flipper got Take Me Upon. That's pretty good. OPN. Network in the 90s.
I think based on the rendition of the song, we have to take any spelling.
Does anyone else find it interesting that the Paramount Network that failed in the 90s now has its own streaming channel?
But it's great.
I know, I love it. It has the Love Boat and MacGyver. Anyway, you gotta love those things, right?
Right. Okay, so it looks like the Gleek won.
Okay.
And Grinwing. Oh wait, no. Grinwing still won because I had to split the points between the Gleek and Whiskey Flipper.
Nice.
Yes.
So how many points did Grinwing get?
Grinwing got. Oh wait, what's 2.5 plus 3.5? That's 6. That means it's a first place tie. Grinwing and the Gleek both got 6 points.
Wow, that is fantastic.
Whiskey Flipper with 4 points and Billy 7 with an honorable half point.
Oh. Good job, chatters. That was a wonderful time. Yeah, now who lost? Who was the end?
Billy, but he's the winner. And
oh, that's terrible.
Wow.
Yeah, who's mean to that guy?
Yeah.
Huh.
Interview. Let's go.
Okay. All right, I think it is time for the interview, and here we go. We have this guy. Hey, welcome to the show, Mr. Roger Hector.
Thank you.
That's the official, pole position Atari intro.
Okay. Got it.
So, we honestly, we only play that for you.
I believe it.
All right, so Roger, welcome to the show. We really are honored to have you here tonight, and you have a long and sordid history in the, well, maybe not sordid, but maybe you have a long history in arcades and video games. We'll get to a whole bunch of this stuff, but why don't you just kick us off telling us how the heck you got started at Atari?
Oh boy, well, you're talking about back in the Jurassic era here. This was I originally, before video games existed, I was all excited about cars. I love cars, and I played with cars as a little kid, and I built a car, and I did all this stuff, and I wanted to go to school to learn how to design cars because video games hadn't been invented yet, and I went to the Art Center College of Design down in Los Angeles, which is kind of, it's sort of one of the big schools for that particular career. Got a General Motors scholarship, and I was ready to move to Detroit when I graduated, which was right at the time when Detroit was just falling apart in the 70s. And so they just said, hey, you have no jobs back here. So I had to find something else at the last minute. And I looked around. I wound up getting an opportunity to work in Dayton, Ohio, for a bicycle company, and I designed bicycles.
Oh,
So
that's
I
cool.
figured 2 wheels, it's not quite 4, but it's still pretty cool. And so I did that for a little over a year, but then decided that, wait a minute, Ohio is not really where I wanted to be. They had tornadoes, they had snowstorms, they had all this stuff that we didn't have in California where I was from. So I contacted a couple of friends of mine from school who were working at a little company nobody had ever heard of. It was just a startup operation in Los Gatos, California. This is pre-Silicon Valley.
Sure.
And there was this little company called Atari, and I didn't know. I mean, I said, oh, well, okay, what is that? And they were working there, and they said, hey, you're a designer guy, you're creative, you could come out, and we could use you. And so I figured I would, okay, I'll take a job in because it was in California.
Yeah.
And I would, I would do whatever they wanted me to do for a little while, and then I'd go find a real job. So anyway, that's kind of how it started. My friends, they were in the art department, and I started designing cabinets for Atari in the 70s. It was about 75, 76, somewhere in there. And that was actually a lot of fun. It was a lot more fun than I imagined because I got to sit around and play games a lot. And
very cool.
That's foreign territory for going to work because you
can
play arcade games for free.
Yeah.
And I played them all. I played everything, and I really enjoyed it. So I wound up working longer than 6 months at Atari. I was there for probably, I think, 7 years.
So,
and
real quick question: you mentioned you were brought in as a creative type, and so you and I know you got like a scholarship, and did you get a scholarship?
I had a General Motors scholarship for automobile design.
That's right. So that's really cool. And then you obviously creative type, and you get to Atari, and they ask you to design what?
Coin operated game cabinet.
So you design the whole cabinet?
What that was.
Like you design the cabinet and the artwork, or everything, or what? How did that work?
I started with the cabinet, just the cabinet. The particle board with T-molding and.
So it was you.
Yeah.
So when you got there, I mean, like Pong was like, it had been around a while, and
yes.
So Breakout was out. There was a smattering of other games, and When was Super Breakout your first cabinet?
I don't even remember what my first one was. It could have been. I mean, it could have been. That sounds about right.
I don't know what year that is. Does anybody know off the top of their head in chat or whatever? But yeah, I mean that's pretty cool. So you're designing the actual. So did they have CAD?
Oh no. Oh no.
So it's all on a drafting board, drafting table.
We had drafting tables.
Yeah.
And we did, 3-dimensional, quote unquote, drawings.
Yeah.
View, front, side, and top view, mechanical engineering drawings.
Very cool.
We did that, and then we build a prototype, and then we'd play with it for a while, and then see, we'd put a prototype game into it, and it was really in our little world of Atari. Which actually in those days it was built in an old roller skating rink.
Oh.
It wasn't really an office. It was a converted roller skating rink.
Sure.
Where the roller skating area, in the center of the building was that's where the factory was.
Okay.
So that's where they were building. It wasn't huge by a long shot, but they were, they were building games there. And the little booths around the edge of the track, that's where we had our little offices.
Okay.
In those booths. And then around the perimeter of that were the executives, the people that kind of worked in real traditional offices.
I have never heard that before. That's so cool.
Well, that's what it was back then. And
so did it have like a maple floor or cement or?
They had let's see, the factory floor was the wood.
Yeah.
That a roller skating rink would be.
That's crazy.
And but one of the other things it had a really cool lobby. Because Nolan spent some energy and creatively in the lobby, where there was a big round opening that you'd walk through with wood paneling on it, and the lobby receptionist was there, and it was very impressive to walk into this.
Yeah.
And there was a little cafeteria, little lunchroom, basically where they had lots of games sitting there, all on free play.
Very cool.
So, that was that time.
What were some of the games that were on free play? Do you remember?
Well, gosh, I think you mentioned Super Breakout, of course, and I enjoyed just about everything that was there. I'm trying to remember, and there was
Superbug, Fire Truck.
Fire Truck was, I actually did. I designed the flyers, the promotion flyers for Fire Truck.
Oh, cool!
Because I was an industrial designer in cabinets, and then I also got to do artwork for the art department.
Oh, yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. I designed a cabinet that was essentially the first convertible cabinet, so that the games that would be put into it could be taken out and replaced with other games.
Sure.
And it was called Multi-Game Module, which is not a great name, but
no.
But there were 2 games in a very tiny footprint, because it was really designed for small locations like a 7-Eleven store.
Sure.
And so they had 2 games separately with a TV sticking out of one side and another one reflected off a mirror on the other side.
Wow.
Everything vertically. And that was an original idea. It was all made out of steel. There wasn't very much, the old school style construction. And there were several different games that could be put into it.
That's really, really cool. So I want to bring this up. We probably would be remiss if we didn't mention Opperman at some point, because you worked for him, right?
Oh, yeah. George Opperman was the leader of that group. He originally was a contractor. He had his own business, and he came into and was ultimately brought into Atari and ran the whole art department. And they had a great group of designers and artists who did cabinet art and advertising and various promotions. When Atari was building pinball machines, I had a chance to design all of the art for a pinball machine, which is pretty elaborate. There's a lot of that in there, and still got a few of those things sitting around. But, that was actually quite a lot of fun. George was amazing. He was a great leader. Everyone loved him really, and he managed to corral some very, very high-end talent.
And incidentally, for the listeners, they may not know, but Opperman basically designed that Atari logo. Is that right?
The Atari logo, yeah, he did that. He was very creative, and there was some really wonderful characters, because you get into this creative artistic world, and they're not a bunch of straight-laced guys. We had some real characters in there, but
sure.
Some specialized in cartoons, and others were more graphic design, and anyway, it covered a full spectrum.
So there were a couple of questions from the chat. One of them was, how were the games actually cut out? So was it just hand routers? Were there tables? Was there an industrial, what'd they do?
Oh, cabinets?
Yeah.
Yeah, the particle board cabinets, basically we would draw a full-size mechanical engineering drawing that would be used as a pattern, and they would cut one side panel out as a master that would be used as a guide to cut the others out. And in the beginning, there was 2 per cabinet, and all of that. The construction of these things was intended to be very sturdy, because cabinets took a real beating, but also inexpensive, relatively speaking. And so they're all made out of particle board. And there was a certain technique for constructing these things with little, the right attachment and hardware. And you had to get a control panel on there. You had to get a TV mounted into it. You had to mount the PC boards inside, and all the wiring, and then the artwork that gets applied over it. It wasn't rocket science, but it was something that became a very sophisticated engineering and manufacturing process.
Oh, very cool.
And this is my question: did Atari have a minimum weight on the cabinets, because they are notoriously heavy?
I know, they're the worst.
You walk up to most cabinets and you're like, oh, I can move this on, I can haul this one around. And Atari cabinets, it's like there was somebody sitting there saying, look, I know that you built this solid, but just add an extra couple of panels, because there will be many more hernias in the future from this.
Yeah.
Look, if you ever saw sort of how these things are wrestled around in the field.
Yep.
The guys with a pickup truck, 2 of them and a lift, would throw it in the back of the pickup truck and take it to another location and drop it off. And they took quite a beating.
Oh, I mean, they are. I mean, I will say Atari cabinets are impressively well built. And I've got a Dragon Spirit right here, which is one of the later ones. But it is funny. You go up behind a Miss Pac-Man, you grab the back of it and you tip it, and it just kind of falls onto you. It's not too hard. You go up behind, a centipede, and you pull, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I actually have to lean backwards to get this up on the dolly.
Right.
And that's not a bad one. I mean, there's some of them you look at, and it just,
right.
it really is. It's one of those things. There was one other question Billy Seven had. Were you responsible for any of the kind of special fronts, like Starship One, or kind of the different, the fiberglass fronts, or some of the varied things that would show up on Battle Zone?
Oh yeah. We did vacuum form plastic side pieces and things like that. I did some design. I guess one of the ones that showed up a lot was the in the Sente game systems later, but also I'm trying to think of the name of it. Well, Battlezone, of course, had different cabinets and it had the well, let's see, it had one that was a kind of a periscope shaped cabinet. It was very elaborate. It was very specialized, only going to be used in a feature spot in an arcade, as opposed to the ones that just get shoved in the back of a 7-Eleven or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there were some of those. I worked on Battlezone. I I did the graphics for Battlezone, which was quite an accomplishment at the time. You know, today they look completely horrible, but they were.
I don't know.
It literally was the very first three-dimensional computer graphics on a game, and we had this vector graphic hardware that, you know, basically you could connect dots in space with a line drawing to create a tank, and I designed the tanks and all that stuff. Ed Rotberg, who was an amazing programmer, he created really the game and made it all work. But he asked me to design some because I had some experience at designing vehicles. So I got to design the tanks and
cool.
the spaceships and all that kind of stuff. But there was no software. There was no 3D software that you know, to work with. So we literally we designed those on graph paper, drawing a top view and a side view and an end view, and then identifying where the lines connect. And you know, Ed did all the hard work, the heavy lifting, but I actually designed the first graphics for that.
Wow. Did you have to do any of that? Was it Bradley Traynor version, or did you manage to escape that?
I sort of escaped that one.
Smart.
I'm quite familiar with it, but yeah. That one had additional input from outside of Atari, as you know.
Yeah.
I will say, like, one of the things that always amazes me, I mean, you say it was, you know, hard at the time, simple now. It's amazing to me how well things were rendered. Like, nobody questioned that it was a tank, or that nobody questions what the objects are, the pieces are, and they are relatively simple drawings on the screen compared to what we have now. But somehow the people who did those early games, like yourself, were able to just, you know, grab the part of our imagination that filled in the pieces and made it feel incredibly, you know, entertaining, realistic. Like, you imagined what was really going on if that was real life, but you're playing a game that the rendering is not there. And it's that piece of it, like the technology piece of it, the 3D piece of it, is amazing that you guys did that with what you had at the time. But the fact that you were able to engage people that way, just is astounding to me.
Yeah.
It was pretty amazing at the time, because you know, it's one thing to design these three-dimensional objects on two-dimensional paper, but then when they appear on the screen and you can see them running around and going in and out of the space and under your control, everyone was kind of blown away by it, because that really had not been done before. And there was kind of a tradition in the labs, the engineering labs, where, say, Ed, in this case, the lead programmer, is creating the code and working with the hardware guy. I believe it was Howie Delman, who came up with the structure for it. But as soon as the graphics came up on the screen and you had a chance to control them with the hand controls, then all these other people started showing up in the labs. And there were, it got to be hard for somebody like Ed to program and do his work, because there's a crowd around him of people trying to play the game.
That's awesome.
We knew at that point that it had something going for it.
So you mentioned the heavy cabinets, and I'm posting in the chat right now 3 links to pictures of an Indy car racer project that you worked on. Can you tell us a little bit about this prototype, and then also the Dave Steuben, the Steuben test?
The Steuben test. I believe that game was called Indie Turbo, and it started with a video projector.
Yeah.
And this is early days video projector that was actually a prototype that came from another company, and it was sort of given to us in R&D. That's when I was kind of leading the R&D group, and so we had we had a very free rein to come up with anything that we could, and we started with this video projector that sits behind the driver in this Formula car, and there's this giant scoop that stands behind the driver, and there's a mirror in there that reflects the game out onto this large screen that's in front of you, and that video projector really was the beginning of that. And then I got literally a fiberglass body from a local kind of a go-kart racing place, and then we built wheels for it and put that giant screen on it. And the game itself was, I'm trying to remember the game. We didn't build a custom game for it. We put just again a
pole position
game. No, it wasn't pole position. It was
Indy,
was like that.
Indy 300, Indy something, Indy 500.
I'll come up with it in a few minutes, and then
Sure.
I'll just blurt it out. but
Indy Turbo.
But the David Steuben test.
Yeah.
Was a kind of an informal, slightly humorous, but interesting repeated event where one of the engineers in the Atari labs was a very large, powerful guy, and his name was Dave Steuben, and we would ask him, because he was bigger and stronger than certainly any of us. He would be asked to do stress testing on various things, like a coin door or a controller or something like that. And so he was actually an excellent engineer, and he created all his own stuff and did his own projects. But other people would come up to him, and I walked up to him one day and said, "Hey, can you see if this coin door that's bolted to the race car is that good enough to put out in the field?" And he walked over to it, and I think he just took one kick and blew it right off.
Oh,
broke the whole thing, and I'm going, oh.
That has got to be both disheartening and like funny at the same time.
Well, the first prototype failed the Steuben test, but it's just what happens, That's why you do it, because they're going to take a beating out in the field.
Yeah.
Dave was great.
Yeah.
Boy, if you ask him to destroy something, he had the power.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think the Indy Turbo picture I'm looking at, it looks like it's a vault, the little box that it's in.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's pretty hefty.
Now
it did get put into the field at a local amusement park, and it instantly became the #1 game in the arcade there.
Cool.
Just because of what it looked like.
Yeah, it's a neat looking game, and that's thanks to the Atari Compendium, where you submitted an interview back in 2013. So,
well, that could be.
And there's a ton of great information on that. Why don't we talk a little bit about? So Atari changed a lot while you were there.
Right.
I mean, you were there when Nolan was there, but then he sold it. So tell us a little bit what that was like.
Nolan, my first kind of direct experiences with Nolan, because I was just this kind of designer, artist, creator guy that was down in the weeds. But he would like to walk around the office after everyone had gone.
Sure.
And just look and just see, because he lived there. He loved everything about it, and particularly the drawings of things that interested him. He would have a tendency to, pick up my work and take it away.
Oh.
And I'd come back into my office the next day, and the thing that I was doing is gone. and I didn't know where it went.
Wow.
And eventually I learned that, it's in Nolan's office. So he just used to like to look at this stuff. And he and I actually got along very well. He's quite the character. But I also later left Atari, started my own company, and ultimately sold that company back to Nolan. That's a whole other story, but I've had kind of a long experience with Nolan. So,
well, when Brian gets back, we'll ask about that particular story. I think that's probably a good segue. But you worked for Atari, and then when Warner bought them out, you were still there, right?
Right.
And you were promoted along the way. You sort of started out maybe in the art department, but then it sounds like from your storyboards and things like that, you sort of became a designer. And so you're designing games now, and people are like asking for your input, and you're participating in the ideation and brainstorming sessions and coming up with cool games. While you were there, when did you end up working on this thing called Cosmos?
Yes. Yes.
Well,
we all want to know.
And first of all, tell us what Cosmos is, and then tell us how you ended up working on that.
Cosmos was a project that started in the R&D department. And the R&D department was owned by Al Alcorn.
Okay. And Al was still there at the time.
Yes, Al was still there. Nolan left first, but Al was still there.
Sure.
And he owned the R&D department, which included the group of people that I was in. I was kind of driving as a manager a lot of the R&D projects, not all of them, but Al had the original idea. He was fascinated with holograms.
Yeah.
And he was just interested in from a technology standpoint, and we would sit around and maybe brainstorm about, well, what can we do with that?
Sure.
And I myself and a few other people all contributed to this thing that became called Cosmos. It was a game system, kind of halfway between a 2600 and a what at the time were called LCD handheld games.
Sure, like a Amigo or something like that.
There was a whole category of toy games.
Tomy electronic games.
There you go.
Yeah. Let me play a little clip as you get into this. Here's a little clip for the viewers. This is actually video footage of you talking about Cosmos when you were the manager of advanced products at Atari. Here we go.
We're introducing a new product here, which we call Cosmos. It's the first consumer product of any kind to utilize holographic displays, which are three-dimensional light images that are created inside this box here. We are definitely working on more and more advanced forms of holography, and with the intent of bringing it to the consumer.
Nice. Wow.
This a little flashback.
Just spoke.
Yeah.
How do I not have one of those?
That was like
there's only like one. That's why and it's in Hector's office, probably.
Holograms. This is like.
I used to have, without going through the whole long story, I basically had a couple of the first production Cosmos games.
Yeah.
And I had them in my house, and I put them up on a shelf in the garage. And after a few years, my wife wound up throwing them away.
Oh no!
Oh. I know.
That's a terrible story. Why did you tell us?
So the only thing I have is this roll of holograms.
Oh, that's cool.
This was a production roll of three-dimensional images. They don't show up if it's not in the proper illumination geometry.
Right.
But this was an amazingly sophisticated technology that created these things.
Yeah.
We hired we had a couple of really strong scientists who basically invented the process for embossing three-dimensional images onto a piece of plastic. And that's what that was the goal of Cosmos, was to be able to put multiple embossed images on top of each other in one piece of plastic that could be illuminated in different ways to create animations and different three-dimensional things that took place. Cool.
Now,
and it all worked. It all worked.
Now,
it was the very first of its kind, and Atari they owned the technology to do this.
Yeah.
But they only made Cosmos but never actually produced it in volume. There was only a couple hundred of them made, and then they decided, it was Ray Kassar, who was the CEO at that time,
sure,
decided that there's too much demand for the 2600.
Okay.
And
he wanted
they
to focus
couldn't
on
meet
that.
the demand for just that, so why start something new?
Okay.
And so that's kind of,
and I've seen interviews with Ray Kassar, and I'm Kassari. I'm not really a fan. Anyway, so
I reported to him. Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to bring up Al Alcorn again later, because you guys worked on another project later. But I think it'd be a good time for you to talk about. So we talked about Atari a lot, and it's really cool. There's actually tons of information out there, of fun stuff. There's an article in one of the video game magazines from back in the day that talks about this thing called Vidia, and they say Vidia to do pizza time with Bushnell. And I'll let you tell the story. But it says 15 months after leaving Atari in a huff and starting up their own company, Vidia coin-op engineers Ed Rotberg, Howie Dellman, and Roger Hector are back in the corporate fold. So tell us a little bit about Vidia and what happened there.
Well, the summary quickie on that is that, it is sort of true. Howie Dellman, the hardware engineer extraordinaire, Ed Rotberg, the programmer extraordinaire, that I had worked with, in the coin-op group, we left together, the three of us, to start our own game company. And my motive was largely because of all the disappointment for not being able to get Cosmos into the marketplace.
Okay.
Because you worked on that for, a couple of years and broke all this new ground and established all these new patents and all this stuff. And basically Atari just walked away from it.
Yeah.
So we said, well, why work in R&D for a company that doesn't really want, innovative new products? So basically we left together and started up our own company. And we called it Vidia. I was the president of Vidia.
Nice.
All three of us were worker bees. We were designing and creating. We were basically doing both VCS games and coin-op games for Gottlieb, back in Chicago.
Sure.
And we started all of this, and we got it going, and it reached a point where there were a couple of companies that wanted to acquire us. One of them was Coca-Cola.
Oh.
Which was really strange,
Yeah.
That's kind of neat.
They made a Pong game once, actually.
Yeah. Well, they track popular culture, of course.
Yeah.
They're part of it. But it turns out that Nolan wanted to bring Chuck E. Cheese back, into the marketplace as a coin-operated game manufacturer, because he really wanted to replace. He sold Atari and left, and then there was a period of time where he couldn't compete directly with Atari, so he was making pizza.
Oh yeah, sure. He had a non-compete.
Mm-hmm.
Where
Yes.
and the article mentions that. It says that once he purchased Vidya, and why don't you tell us? There's a big reveal here. What happened when he purchased Vidya?
Well, he purchased Vidya to build coin-operated games. We actually changed. It was his idea to change the name from Vidya to something else. As a division of Chuck E. Cheese, it was Sente Technologies.
There you go.
And the reveal you might be referring to is that Sente is another word. Atari is from the game of Go.
Sure.
And Sente is a counter move to a Go.
Yes.
To an Atari, I'm sorry.
Yeah, to an Atari, which is a move and go. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's that little story behind it, the connection of
Sure.
Sente and Atari. But anyway.
But basically, you founded Sente.
Yes. Yes.
So what were those? There was a couple of years between when you founded it. I believe it was 82 was when it started.
That sounds about right.
And then Nolan was like, I think late 83 or 83 sometime. What were your early games you were working on? What were those first? I mean, was there like a game that you guys got together and said, here's what this is gonna be the breakout game for Vidya?
We did when it was just Vidya, we were sort of doing contract games for other publishers based on us coming up with some ideas. And we had some pretty cool ideas. It was at a very tumultuous time in the consumer game business because there was sort of a collapse in the early 80s that caused several of the companies that we built and sold our games produced at Vidya to, and they went out of business before they produced them. So
Could you resell them after you sold them again?
We sold them. I remember selling to a couple of games to Fox, who was in the game business, but then went out of the game business.
Right.
The rights reverted back to us. So we sold those same two games to Atari, to Ray Kassar, my old boss.
Right.
And he bought them, but then that was at a time when Atari started collapsing. So actually, several of these games that we built never got manufactured. But when Nolan stepped in, it became really a little different situation because he wanted to go exclusively coin-op and build this coin-op game system that had convertible games in a specially designed cabinet that would last forever. It was made out of steel, and that
it doesn't fit through any door. Is that what the deal is for that?
that was the Sente system.
Yes.
Were the early ones steel?
Yes.
Was there?
It was a steel frame that had panels that would bolt onto it, and some were removable. It had a printed circuit board container inside that you could slide in and out different games, and they were wired up separately because there's two different games in the same cabinet. And that was something that I actually had some experience doing before. So it turned out that I got to do it again, and the Sente system started that way as a convertible game system. And we made I forget how many, at least a dozen or 14, 15 games.
Was there any games from that system that stand out to you? Ones you remember or enjoyed either playing, messing with, doing artwork for? Wish they'd never happened?
Well, there's probably some of each,
that reminds me.
I liked Snake Pit. Snake Pit was fun. We did the first game, and we got patents for it. I'm trying to remember the name of it, where the controller is a grid on the floor in front of the game.
Stompin',
that's it.
And there are very few of those left.
Well, it was a pretty sturdy thing, but they, It took quite a beating, but it was the very first of its kind to use a floor-mounted grid control system.
Yeah,
that got repeated later, but Stompin' it's all about.
It's like a predecessor to Dance Dance Revolution.
Yeah. Yep. It was a
And
predecessor.
you guys had, this is, I don't think people realize the technology that happened in this. If I remember correctly, you had lights in the panels too, didn't you?
Yes.
So it wasn't even just something on the screen. You actually had the lights going on. It was a.
Oh yeah. When you stomped on a square, there was a 9 square, grid. When you stepped on a square, it would light up. Its perimeter would light up. So it wasn't, it had some sophisticated qualities to it that worked very well.
You had something to do with a game that got me hooked on Bally Sentis, and that actually is the game Night Stalker.
Oh yes.
And I went to buy a Ridge Racer. This lady had this Night Stalker in her basement. I'm looking at the Ridge Racer going, forget that. What's this game here? And they'd bought it back in like 87 or 88. It was immaculate. The instructions were stapled to the bottom of it. And I looked at them like, there's a steering wheel and a gun.
Right, who doesn't want to do that?
Awesome.
That's the way you do it.
You probably couldn't do that today. I don't know. But
no.
Back at the time, that was extremely innovative. And yeah, I worked on that.
What did you do on that game?
I worked with Dennis Coble, who was the programmer.
Mm-hmm.
Famous programmer, did a lot of good stuff. I'd worked with him on other projects too, but I kind of helped out with the concept of putting a steering wheel and we had to design a arcade survivable gun pistol.
Yep.
That thing is crazy tough.
That's not easy. Not easy. So we put that together. Dennis did all the programming, and I kind of helped get the whole thing together from an industrial design standpoint.
That thing is so industrial that it could be used as a weapon just by hitting somebody on the head with it.
Yeah. It's funny because that game. So I had a lot of the shop that we were in. We'd have a lot of the fighting game guys that do the modern fighting games come over, and we'd have a lot of our cabinets on at the time. And that game earned the nickname "Distracted Driving Game," and they loved it. They'd go there and it got played and played and played. And one of the neat things about it is you're driving, for those in the chat that don't know, but there's no gas pedal. Like you're at a constant speed.
Oh.
And it's tough. It's a hard game. You're trying to aim at stuff, drive at stuff, and you're picking up those crystals, and it's a lot of fun.
It's like Road Blasters meets I don't know, Time Cop. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, that one was fun. Yeah, one of my favorite Sente games.
Somebody also asked the question. I think it was Brian Jones in the chat. Proc, do the Moonquake ROMs still exist?
Oh, not that I know of. The honest answer is not secret. That I know of. But for the right price.
Yeah.
Not that I knew of.
No, they may have just disappeared, into the sands of time for all I know. I just don't know.
That was, it was the whole idea of the cartridge system so early on in a coin-operated arcade, really a neat idea. And then the games, it's funny because I'm going back and recreating some of these games. It's neat to, the games are relatively straightforward, but really challenging, and some ideas that are really different than what you're seeing in a general arcade game.
Right.
Combinations of controls, execution of actions in the game, and after the first time you look at them, you go, well, it's not like Pac-Man. I'm used to Pac-Man. I'm used to Donkey Kong. But after you play it once or twice, you go, this is okay. I'm getting the hang of a spinner and a joystick, or I'm getting the hang of a steering wheel and a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And they're really enjoyable. It really was it's a fun set of games to play.
I have a quick question for Brian, just to feed on that. So, like Atari, first of all, one of the most innovative companies, and I still think Williams made great games, and I love talking to the developers and the game designers at Atari because they often bring up like Robotron and Defender as favorite games that they loved, which I think there's a mutual admiration and respect for that. But I love the fact that during the golden age, every arcade game had there was a drive to make a unique control set. So like Star Wars had the yoke, Tempest had the spinner, Robotron had 2 joysticks, Atari Football had 2 trackballs. I mean, it's just very like you can't emulate that crap. You have to have the original stuff in order to play it the way it was meant to be played. And so you carry that over to Sente with the gun and the steering wheel and all that sort of thing. But Brian, can you just fire off a list of all the games that you've been working on?
So we've done carts for Chicken Chef, Off the Wall, Trivial Pursuit, Snake Pit, Snacks and Jackson, the Senti Diagnostic Cart. I think that's it for now.
Name that tune.
We've done artwork for all of those, plus Name That Tune, Goalie Ghost, Give Me a Break, Mini Golf, and then we're working on the rest too, and Stalker.
Oh, and so that's really awesome. Roger, you got to show the mini golf thing.
Show the mini golf thing.
What you have?
Oh yeah, the marquee. Here we go.
This was just sitting, leaning against my desk on the floor.
Just random.
But this is mini golf. This was the prototype mock-up for mini golf, and the artist that did it, a guy named Bob Flamati, he put my caricature right here as the caricature.
I love that
character on this. And
I love that. It's so awesome.
What can I say? Yeah, it's just sitting here. But
you're memorialized in and I think it's funny. It's not your own artwork. Somebody else drew you.
Yeah.
So awesome.
I've done plenty of artwork, but somebody else did it, so that's okay.
It is really, really cool. Thanks for sharing that. So I don't want to skip over Sente. So Brian,
so I did want to ask, one of the neat games that Sente did that is not really out there because there weren't many units made is the Shrike Avenger.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any? I mean, I'd love to hear if you have any stories around that, because it looks like there's got to be something interesting behind that one.
Well, let's see. As long as I get the names right, Shrike Avenger was the motion control simulator.
Yep.
Yeah. It was that was a real aggressive idea. We said, hey, now that actually happened. Nolan and Pizza Time Theater sold Sente to Bally. And that's kind of where the progression sort of led to that, because Pizza Time was having some financial issues, and there was a good opportunity to sell a game company to Bally, and Bally wanted it. So we became known as Bally Sente at one point. Same people doing the same thing. But because Bally also was in the arcade business themselves more directly, then we actually designed and created several things for Bally that were for a different market. I mean, we did Shrike Avenger, and it was basically a motion control cockpit that was motorized and connected to the a steering control, and all of that was connected into a game that was about outer space and flying through star fields and that sort of thing. And it was the real sort of unique part of it was you'd climb into it now, and then you could take off, and the thing would lift you off the ground, and you'd zoom around and tilt, and there was a lot of motion that was built into the game. There are a bunch of games like that now. I mean, since then, that kind of thing has been done.
But
However,
back then,
this was a first of its kind. So we did that for Valley, and it turned out that not a lot of them were made, largely because the mechanical side of it was very difficult to keep that running consistently in the field. It worked great in the labs. We had no problem, but you put it in the field, it's hard enough to get a coin-operated game cabinet to live with a simple coin door and controls. But something like that became a real target for vandalism in the field. You get 2 or 3 kids climbing on top of it when it's moving around, and so.
In fairness, it does look like a jungle gym on the back. Has those bars that you could kind of climb up.
So we didn't build a lot of them. We did build some.
And I mean, so when you're launching something like that, when you're going out with something like that, here, system that is really revolutionary. You've got Cosmos, you've got all these things where you're really kind of the first ones out to market saying, here's this baby. And what's that like when you're building up to that, you're leading into that? You've been a part of this a number of times.
Yeah, it's true. It's I think a lot of the original inspiration around being inventive started at Atari, because there was no such thing as an established, successful thing in the very beginning.
Right.
Yep.
So completely new things could be done easily, and it would either work or it wouldn't work. It would collect coins or it wouldn't. But there was a very open sort of attitude towards, let's try it. Let's come up with something really different and let's try it. So there was a lot of innovation that came from all corners of Atari, really, and particularly in coin-op. Coin-op in my day was sort of the lead group, because it had the custom-made hardware that was better than say a coin-op or a 2600 or something like that.
It's interesting
that we could do more sophisticated things.
One of Atari's early slogans was "Innovative Leisure."
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. I have 2 questions really quick that dovetail off what was just asked. First one was, did you ever get to hang? I don't know if "get to" is the right word. Did you ever have to hang around with Steve Jobs or Wozniak?
A little bit, yeah.
So they were still there when you came on board?
Yeah. Jobs was an interesting character.
Absolutely.
Compared to, he's a globally known celebrity today.
Yeah.
And at the time, he was just a guy.
Yeah, and I heard he was kind of stinky. I heard he was kind of stinky, and he sort of depended on his friend Woz. And so, speaking of depending on a friend, Nolan had a good friend, Al Elkhorn. You mentioned him earlier,
right?
And first of all, A, are you still friends? And 2, tell us about the project you worked on with Al.
Gosh, easy. Al and I have been buddies for several decades, and he'll come to my house or I'll go to his house. We'll have lunch together and we'll talk about, we've done things kind of as a pair. Tried a few different ideas. We've done just again in the creative spirit of using new technology to create new things. And we've done a few of those types of projects kind of on our own.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've been buddies for a long time. And I see him all the time. But what was the second part?
You had a sort of a venture together well after Vidya, but before Namco, you worked on a project together.
Yeah, we've done a couple of those types of things. I'm trying. I'm trying to remember.
Me too. I'm trying to remember also, but
there was a little company that we formed called You Get It.
Okay.
And You Get It. I know that we were going to make. We sort of figured out a way to take Siri from from a phone, an iPhone, and get her to say things that Apple doesn't let her say.
Nice.
I love that.
We figured out a way to do that, and basically we're creating a game that was going to be a card game where Siri was the guest host.
That is cool. I love that. I love, first of all, so Nolan worked with a company recently on a game called Saint Noir.
Right. Okay.
And it's an Alexa-based game. So 2 years ago when we had him on the program, he had this basically a board game. And here's what I love about the innovation of our generation and older. We love the physical aspect of gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's an arcade game or whether it's a card game, we love the tactile part of that. And I love the fact that you and Al like key it on that, like, so it's not just about like finding out what Siri can do, but also let's explore this. Like how can we make this like a physical interactive experience? And not only that, I mean, every person that we have on the show, I think we talk about the social aspect of gaming.
Mm-hmm.
So can you speak to that a little bit? Like, I'm gonna get a little philosophical. So philosophical.
That's easy for you to say.
Yeah, exactly. Let me get a little philosophical and ask you a question. Like, what is your opinion on the social aspect of gaming?
Well, I would say that having started in coin-op, there literally was a physical social aspect to that, because you weren't just sitting in your room at home playing somebody else online, and that sort of inspired opportunities to create multiplayer coin-op games where you'd have 4 stations around a TV that everyone would play, and there became the creation of crowd entertainment. The more excitement you generate, in an arcade, any one machine will draw a crowd to it. When most of the game playing sort of moved into the home, then it kind of winnowed down a little bit the social side of it. And then particularly more recently with people literally playing online, it's very one-on-one, or 1 on 10, but the other 9 are somewhere else. So the social aspect has really changed. But I will say that over the last couple of years, particularly with the growth and the global growth of esports has a way of connecting literally millions of people into watching competitive play as entertainment, and it's also expanding the social aspect of it. Particularly, I mean, that's kind of, it goes back to that game that I'm working on right now, where we're going to be giving away big prizes. For winning a contest that will be broadcast around the world.
And then my question is always, how are you making money? You're giving away all the
Great
money.
question. It's a great question. As it turns out, this was a kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity, because the foundation that commissioned this project had the money to spend to do it.
Okay.
And it was it's the Singleton Foundation. They're wonderful people.
Nice.
They have the resources. They wanted to put a pile of resource into making the world a better place for young people.
Wow.
And that is the mission of this whole project. So literally, they're spending millions of dollars. We're giving it all away.
Wow.
We're just giving it. Everything is given away.
That is amazing.
The prizes, the scholarships, the other things that are all going to be tied into this are kind of designed to make people's lives better, to improve the quality of their life by playing a game and learning something. And that I kind of see as a next generation of where education can go.
Yeah.
Where social entertainment can go.
Absolutely. I love it. I love that.
There's a Venture Valley trailer. Ooh.
Ooh. Post it in the chat. Post in the chat.
I pulled that up earlier. It's interesting because we do some work with an event called Evo that happens out in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And I recently pulled up some of the statistics about this, and they have a peak viewership. In 2019, they had a peak viewership of 245,000 people watching one single game.
Wow.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And so the esport, I don't think people realize, especially in the classic community, how many. I mean, it's that game had, I think this was Street Fighter. The icons are too small to see. Over 1.7 million hours of footage watched over a weekend by people.
Oh my gosh.
I believe it. Try Twitch.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. That's
That's
where we're on right now.
We're trying to Twitch right now. I'm twitching. So, okay. So here, I want to change gears. No pun intended. A little bit, because, I mean, you mentioned at the very beginning of the show that one of your motivations, well, I don't even know if it's a motivation for getting it over to Atari, but the fact that your education was funded by a passion of yours, which is cars. And by the way, people, if you have not looked him up by now on the internets, Google Roger Hector cars. Can you please talk about, was it 2008, 2005? 2005 was it? When you completed your first, like, you finally got to make a car.
Yeah, that was kind of one of those long standing dreams, and I've made lots and lots of games and a number of other things.
Yeah.
I've also been a fine art painter, and I've painted lots and lots of paintings that actually.
By the way, exist. behind him right now is a 1930s Bugatti.
Well, that's true. That's true.
It's pretty freaking cool.
I've got paintings in a variety of museums and kind of prominent places. So I've really enjoyed that part of it, and I was combining the art and the design from that to do a car, and it was actually a project that kind of came to me. There was a patron of mine, an art patron, who asked me if I could design a car. I said, well, I think so. So he says, so he put some money up to design this sports car, and ultimately, I designed it was called the Anteros, and the company, it was my company, and I set it up and ran production manufacturing of the Anteros, which was actually quite a lot of fun. It was sort of it took a couple of years to do that.
Yeah.
But I was kind of in my own. I mean, I was on my own. and so I did get that done. And
so basically, you're like DeLorean, except for you made your car in America.
But classier.
Right.
Well, I don't know about classier, but at least I kept all the money above board.
Oh, very good.
That's good. So, All right, I'm going to ask you some tough questions now. Do you know the specs of the Anteros? What kind of car was it?
Well, it's got a chassis, suspension, and engine from a Corvette, brand new.
Nice.
And the body is all carbon fiber.
Beautiful.
It's got several tricky little, design details. There's heads-up displays on the dashboard, and stuff like that just a regular guy considers to be challenging, and I managed to make it work. It's got a supercharged engine. Again, the Corvette. It's got about 550 horsepower.
Yeah, it's basically a supercar, right?
Yeah, it weighs about 100 pounds less than a Corvette, and it has about 100 more horsepower than the Corvette.
Couple more.
So that's really a good combination.
Couple links in the chat to that thing. It reminds me a little bit of a Porsche Spyder.
Pretty cool.
It is.
Well, it is kind of fun to drive around because everybody thinks they know what that is, but they don't really know.
No.
And they're always asking, what the hell is that?
Yeah, I love it. Now, okay, so we talked about this off air, but you didn't actually own one of these cars.
That's true. Without going through the whole story, when the company, we started manufacturing them in a factory, and the factory, which I contracted to do it, wound up going out of business while they were in production. And so basically I had all of the prototypes I had sold off, or I didn't have any of them. And my thinking was I'll build the first production run of these cars, and then I'll just take one for myself. But when the factory closed early, there was none left for me. So basically I had to walk away from the whole thing without having one.
That's terrible.
And it took 7 years for the guy who bought the first one told me, he says, hey, I think I'm going to sell it. And I said, no.
I got you.
I'd like to have it. So
yeah.
I have the first one.
That is so awesome that you have your very first. I love that. I love that story. Okay. I have one more car story that I'd like you to tell us about. And I was going to post the picture, but I don't have it ready. So for those of you that are fans of Volkswagen dune buggies, also known as the Manx, Roger, I mean, before Atari, you were as a kid, you were totally into cars, building cars. So, Anteros is one thing, but where did, tell us about the bug of building your own buggy. And then I want to hear the story about the 50-foot drop.
Oh my gosh, the story.
Well, it is true that I wanted to. I was as a little kid. I like building little model cars of cars, and I just enjoyed everything about it. And when I reached a stage, I think I was probably 14. I entered a model car in a contest. There was a national model car contest, and it turns out, miraculously, that little model won first place.
Nice.
And the first place trophy was $1,200.
That's a lot of money.
That was a ton of money. I had no money.
What year was that?
$1,200.
What year was this?
This would have been in, let's see, 1970, or no, this would have been in 60, 68, something like that.
That's when my house was built.
Something like that. Anyway, I was like 14, and I had this thing of money, and so I said, I want to build a real car. And the only way I could do it, and I didn't know anything about it at that stage, but you could get an old Volkswagen, which I did, and I didn't have a driver's license, but I got I got an old Volkswagen. I took it all apart, and I got one of these fiberglass bodies, dune buggy bodies. I put it on, and got it all to run, and that was the car that I drove around when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And to me, it was really cool. A lot of other people looked at it and thought, God, that's pretty weird.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
It really was a lot of fun.
And I'm sorry, but you're from California. It's like stereotypical Californian.
Right. It only rains like twice there.
I know,
a year.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
by the way, for the listeners, $1,200 adjusted from 1968 to 2021 is $9,208.76.
Oh, you have a different calculator. Mine says $9,107.
There you go. Still, it's like almost 10 grand.
Wow.
Isn't that nuts?
For a kid that doesn't even have a driver's license.
I know. So you have this Manx looking, dune buggy, which for us kids, like when we grew up, Wonderbug. Think Wonderbug. Like,
of course.
I mean, it's like a schlep, honk the horn, turns into Wonderbug. So anyway, I'm thinking Croft Superstar right now. I'm sorry.
Right.
So
yeah, totally.
anyway, you have this car, and then what do you do with it?
Well, as an off-road car,
way off.
I took it on. I took it up into the local mountains, and I was driving around with my brother in the car, and
you didn't tell me it was your brother.
Oh my goodness!
I sort of lost control, and we were we were literally in the mountains. There's no road anywhere, and there was about a 50-foot cliff that I shot right off.
Oh my God!
And it flipped over a few times in the air.
Oh my God!
Rolled at the bottom of the hill and stopped upside down.
And you were still in it?
Oh yeah, we had seatbelts on.
Oh my God!
We had seatbelts and a roll bar, and so this winds up stopping upside down in a creek.
Oh my!
The water's flowing through the car.
Oh no!
Oh my God!
And that just ticked me off no end.
Wow.
Oh, it ticked you off.
Well,
I'm like, never mind the fact you're alive.
But I rebuilt it. I did rebuild it. I figured out how to repair fiberglass, how to do all of this stuff. I built a new top. I think the picture I gave you has the woody top on it.
It does. It does.
Yes. So trying to be, it was a creative outlet.
It's amazing. Did you flip it back over and then wobble home or something, or how did it?
I flipped it over, but I had to go get a tow truck.
Oh,
wow!
With a long cable to go find it and drag it back up.
By the way, I've got a few other pictures I'm going to post tomorrow on the Arcade Radio Facebook page, and the Manx will be on there. I know it's not officially a Manx, but I'm going to post it because it's amazing.
Close enough.
Yeah.
I do love the you finish and you're frustrated that the car's hurt. That is such a young story. There's nowadays, I was out skiing and I took a turn, didn't fall, didn't kill myself, my knee started hurting. Okay, I'm done. Whereas years ago I'd have been all right, I got 6 more runs in me.
Yeah.
Focus on the other leg.
What I think is most fascinating about this is that had you and your brother died, God forbid,
yeah,
you would not be here talking to us. I mean, that's a terrible story.
Well, you wanted the 50-foot.
I did. I love this story. I mean, it's amazing.
The fact is, it all worked out okay.
Yeah. And I love the fact you're here today. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I love it.
Well, thank you.
And all you've contributed. I mean, it really is. You've really done a lot throughout the years. I mean, we didn't even scratch on a lot of the console stuff that you've worked on.
I think there's another interview at some point.
Yeah, I think there's a Roger part 2 for sure.
Let him get reset.
I mean, and by the way, this hour and a half is just blown by.
Yeah. Well,
so
I appreciate the opportunity. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's good to meet you guys.
Well, you know what? Tell you what. Stick around after the show. We'd like to talk to you a little bit offline before we go. But I think we're going to wrap it up for tonight. It's been fantastic. Everybody in the chat, thanks for hanging out with us and asking questions. Just love having you along for the show as always. And I think Does everybody have the show notes ready? Because
I'm ready. Let's go. Hit the button. Let's go. Some of us have to go to the bathroom.
all right. Okay. I want to just thank everybody listening in for on the double R's. That's the Arcade Radio. Yeah, you know.
2DCon is coming up in August. Check it out at 2dcon.net. That's a festival up in Minnesota. We're looking forward to it. And join us.
All right, check out our website, arcaderadio.com. That's RCATE radio.com for all of your social media and swag links.
Call and leave comments at 612-548-GAME. That's 4263. And yes, the phone number really does work, and we really do get voicemail.
If you're enjoying the show, pick up some Arcade Radio swag over at Spring, which is teespring.com/Arcade Radio, or consider supporting our Patreon campaign over at patreon.com/Arcade Radio.
Subscribe to our Twitch channel and click that notification in case you'd like to know when we're streaming live. You can also go to YouTube if you really want to.
But Twitch is better.
Twitch is
awesome. If you like what you're hearing, consider dropping us a 5-star review on Anchor, iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you consume our podcast.
That's going to be it for tonight's show. From the Arcade Radio team, we hope you had a great time, and we'll see you on the next episode.